Hello, and welcome to On Second Thought, a bonus series of And the Runner-Up Is. On August 29th, 2018, I released the episode of And the Runner-Up Is on the 1995 Best Picture race, where we discussed Apollo 13 as the likely runner-up that lost Best Picture to Braveheart. But on second thought, what if the runner-up was really Sense and Sensibility? Hello, and welcome to On Second Thought, a bonus series of And the Runner-Up Is, where we discuss another film nominated for Best Picture that we did not cover on the regular show that could have conceivably been a runner-up. Today we have a very fun year to talk about, 1995, and the film we're talking about is Sense and Sensibility, which could have possibly been a runner-up to Braveheart as a kind of an alternative to Apollo 13, which I covered on the regular show. So I'm excited to have that discussion. And I'm also very excited to have on two very, very big fans of And the Runner-Up Is that I'm so excited to have on for the first time. My first guest is a filmmaker and the host of the 1 Inch Barrier podcast, which covers the best international feature category of each Oscar year. Very new, fun podcast. Please welcome to the show, Juan Carlos Ojano.
What's up? Hi.
So, my other guest is an avid listener of the show, self-described foremost expert on Mamma Mia, here we go again. She is getting her MFA in cinema production and is the editor and co-host for the Community Rewatch podcast, which probably doesn't need an explanation because it's right in the title. The Rewatchin' Community. Please welcome Chelsea Eichholz.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. So, here we go. Sense and Sensibility. Really interesting film here, and we can jump right in to the quick summary. So, it is a period drama based on the Jane Austen novel of the same name. It tells the story of the Dashwood sisters and their mother in the late 1790s. So the wealthy patriarch of the family dies, and due to the rules of inheritance, they are kicked out of their house when it is bequeathed to the father's firstborn son. And we get to know the two eldest Dashwood sisters in particular, Eleanor, who embodies good sense and falls for a humble man named Edward Ferrers, and Marianne, who she has more of a romantic sensibility, you could say, and falls in love with a man named John Willoughby, who rescues her in the rain, but is very far from the Prince Charming that she once assumed. And we also meet Colonel Brandon, who is in love with Marianne, and all kinds of romantic complications ensue. So the film was directed by Ang Lee and written by Emma Thompson. It also stars Emma Thompson as Eleanor Dashwood, Kate Winslet as Marianne, Alan Rickman as Colonel Brandon, Hugh Grant as Edward Ferrers, Greg Wise as John Willoughby, Harriet Walter, Hugh Laurie, Imelda Staunton, Imogen Stubbs, Gemma Jones, James Fleet, and Tom Wilkinson. A real who's who of great British actors. So, Sense and Sensibility made $43 million at the US box office, and it was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, winning 1, but that one was not Best Picture. So here we go, Sense and Sensibility. I'm excited to talk about this one, and we will start with Chelsea here. What are your thoughts on Sense and Sensibility?
So I have a little fun history with it in that in high school, our English teacher, I feel like we did not really read books, but we watched movies based on all these books that we were supposed to read. Mm-hmm. My teacher was great in that regard. And Sense and Sensibility was one of those movies that we watched in high school. And I actually just really liked it. I think I was 15 when we watched it. And I think I was the perfect age for it. And it was I recognized all these actors from Harry Potter films in them. And I'm like, yes, this is my jam. I want to explore more of these. And then I just kind of went afterwards into an Emma Thompson like rabbit hole and watched all her stuff and became obsessed.
You tend to do that. When you discover Emma Thompson, you just want to see more of her. So let's go to Carlos. What are your thoughts on Sense and Sensibility?
Well, it's one of the first films that I watched when I was starting to become like an Oscar completist, like in a premature way. And it was available in video store, and like I bought it, and I did not know anything about it. And I watched it when I was like around like 13, 14, 15. And I was just watching it because there's this Oscar name attached to it without any sort of context or consideration. What was it about, or like the history of the literary source? I liked it then. I love it more, especially now that I've understood more about it. And yeah, it's a lovely time watching this film.
Yeah. So I also really love this film. I think this is a great adaptation of Jane Austen. Arguably the best. Certainly the Pride and Prejudice miniseries is great, but I think Emma Thompson is such a brilliant writer and artist, and she is able to take this novel from the early 1800s, taking place hundreds of years ago, and not making it contemporary at all, but still making it feel fresh and relevant and very just comprehensible for a modern audience. And to me, this is sort of like what Greta Gerwig did with Little Women, not in terms of just changing the structure around or anything like that, but just in the sense that you just feel the passion that she has for this novel. And she just understands all of these relationships, the differences between all these characters, especially Eleanor and Marianne, and just what it is to be a woman in this time period, just pent up in their house compared to all the men we see just roaming around the countryside and going off to London. And since I had seen it before, I actually wanted to pull up Emma Thompson's screenplay just to read along at a few points. And it's just so well written. And it's so rich with detail. And she just is describing these tiny little exchanges, like a little shift in the dynamic of a scene, and describing something like she tries to silence her with her eyes. You know, these little phrases that are so tight and witty and just say something that you maybe struggle to describe, but she just nails it so perfectly. And I think it's very much a case of her being an actor herself, where she understands not only how to craft this story, but also to get really good performances out of the actors. And obviously Emma as Eleanor is very much, she understands her character, and Kate Winslet is wonderful and luminous, and they all just play off each other so well. What do we think of the performances here?
I think the performances, they're interesting in a way, like you don't expect this from all these performers. Like Alan Rickman at the time, a lot of people knew him for like Die Hard and as him a tough person. Mm-hmm. And he's these beautiful, romantic, like leading man. And then you have Hugh Grant really downplaying like his own like persona to the public. And yeah. And you get to see different sides of all of these performers. I think Emma Thompson, people kind of would have expected that from her, but most of these other people, you actually get to see them do something new, and I found that really refreshing.
Emma Thompson at the time had already won an Oscar for a kind of a costume drama, Howard's End, and she had been in The Remains of the Day, and now you have this. It's kind of like this little trilogy of sophisticated period pieces, but I still think she adds new layers. Just obviously from her writing the screenplay herself, she digs so deeply into this character that is probably something that would be difficult to convey, you know, that sense of her feeling so repressed emotionally and having that good sense, like I said, just to like a stiff upper lip, you know. And then compare that to Kate Winslet, who's this great up-and-coming star who had only been in one other film before this, Heavenly Creatures.
Gosh.
And she delivers this beautiful performance that you just see that she's going to be a star one day.
Their energy together, it's just so delicious to see them like bounce off with like different energies at the same time, and yet they complement each other very well. And when I watch these performances together, it's just astounding for me, and not just the two of them, but the whole cast, and like how all of these performers are in their A game, and you see their strengths, and at the same time these are not like performances that are just, these are not like performances that you would just associate with these actors. These are actors that are doing something new or something fresh, and it never feels stale. And I think that really helps in keeping this film in such a lively mood, because I think sometimes what happens with period pieces is that sometimes it gets too serious, and yet it's not the case here in Sense and Sensibility. The humor and the nuances stem from this very well written screenplay, and yet again you have more is added with these actors like doing a lot of great character work, which just makes this film really alive and lively and never stiff. And yeah, just wonderful dynamic from the cast members.
Yeah,
I would agree.
I wanted to talk about Ang Lee's direction here, since he hasn't really been talked about yet. How he's often someone who is talked about as like a chameleon as a director, how he's just able to do all of these different things and mold himself into whatever the story is that he's telling, and taking risks. And that's certainly true here, where this is his first English language film, which is the fact that he crafted something so beautiful as this is a testament to his talent, I think. But it's also, I think, an example of this one thread that is running through a lot of his films, which is just a level of sensitivity, really. You can tell that he really cares so much about these relationships, and I think that combined with the screenplay really bring the film to life. And it's not a super showy directorial achievement, and we'll certainly get to why he was snubbed in Best Director. Yeah. But I think he just makes it look so easy here, and he's so invested in putting the actors and the story first. I'm going to compare it to Greta Gerwig again, because it's like
we might as well compare greatness.
Yes. Legends all. Yes. But it's like her direction on Lady Bird. It's not really showy at all in terms of technical craft, but it's just totally making you invested in the characters.
Yeah, what happens in those scenes, that especially like in Lady Bird and Little Women and Sense and Sensibility, that these are not, probably not the showiest of, what most people would consider are like the quote unquote great directing, especially in terms of award season. But the work that, in terms of visual language and blocking, and how all of these translate the character dynamics and the relationship dynamics of the characters, and how that allows actors to really bounce off the life within their scenes, that is really, I think, underrated directing. And that's you've been bringing it up. When I was watching Sense and Sensibility, I remembered Little Women so much, on how so much is happening in one scene, even if it's just a small scene, and that's a credit to how much sensitivity and care Ang Lee has, and the details, not just in the period details, but in the emotional details of the story. So yeah, that kind of direction goes unrewarded a lot of times, but I really appreciate, and I think we appreciate it in this case.
Yeah.
I was reading like how Emma Thompson has her book about the making of Sense and Sensibility, and it has the script. They talk a lot about Ang Lee and her and how they were trying to work together on set, and he was not used to actors coming to him with like different suggestions and stuff.
Right.
He was a little thrown, and so it really like was a learning moment for him of like how English language like films were made and stuff, and it you can really like tell that it was a beautiful collaboration on set and that everyone was listening to each other, like even in the small details, like every character feels alive, and like you could take a random character like Mrs. Jennings and you know everything about her. I feel like whenever you watch the film, or Imelda Staunton, like you just know that person.
Totally.
I love them.
Hugh Laurie just always reading his papers.
Oh my gosh.
When
Love
she
it.
crumples the paper and he just like flattens out the corner because he's annoyed.
Exactly.
It's like a beautiful detail.
Lovely little touches like that are just what make the movie feel so authentic. Yeah. You know, I was reading just more of Ang Lee behind the scenes, and apparently he did a lot of interesting choices there to help the actors find these performances. He told Kate Winslet to read novels and poetry from that era to just fully grasp like her romantic sensibility side to her. And he told the cast to like write letters to each other, you know, just letter writing instead of any other kind of communication, just to really, again, get into that feeling again. And he also asked Emma Thompson and Kate Winslet to room together, which makes sense to get them to that emotional bonding point. So those are all, I mean, like I said, for his first English language film, I think that's just, he just shows so many great instincts right there. And that's a testament to his direction.
Truly.
So do we have standout scenes? Because we've talked a lot about just the general vibe of the film, but I want to just dig deeper into any specific moments in the film that really strike us.
I'm looking at my notes right now. I had those scenes.
Well, certainly one that I always enjoy is just the Willoughby in the rain rescuing Marianne.
And you cannot blame her for falling in love with him.
Yes.
Because wouldn't that be the most romantic thing in the world, somebody saving you in the rain?
It would. It certainly would. And there are many savings in the rain in this film. and in Pride and Prejudice, there's a lot of like rain stuff going on there. But anyway, yeah, I love that scene because you totally see like how this young girl who hasn't really found anyone before is just so smitten with this man who's just like this Prince Charming and is so beautiful, and he reads sonnets and he carries a little pocket sonnet book.
He's too perfect.
Too perfect, and that's why he's suspicious. Yes.
And then I think another great little scene is the Hugh Grant and Emma Thompson whenever they're like talking about the Nile River and where it is. I think like that shows a different side of them falling for each other and like how they pick up on each other's humor, and like just a very small scene that just works. And with a child actor in it that isn't super annoying. So I really appreciate that.
Yes, that is rare. I mean, honestly, just the entire cast is so perfectly suited for these roles.
Yes.
I mean, can we talk about the moment at the real climax of the film where there is this misunderstanding about the Dashwood sisters assuming that Edward Ferrars got married to Lucy when in reality it was a miscommunication and it was actually Edward's brother Robert who married Lucy, and then Edward is visiting the Dashwoods, and just the part where Eleanor finally understands that Edward is not married and that she still has a chance with him, and her just heavy breathing, just hyperventilating, and just that breakdown is such a brilliant moment because it's like she's been sucking in air this whole time, just sucking it up and not letting anyone see her pain, and she just gets to breathe again. You know, it's like Jennifer Garner at the end of Love, Simon. Like, you get to exhale now. It's just
Yeah.
so well executed. I adore that scene.
I do too, and I
yeah,
read that.
go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead. You go for it.
Okay, I love that scene because that we've been waiting for an Eleanor moment. I think for the majority of the film, like Marianne is this walking fireball that just is like she's the most romantically not obsessed, but she is the one that's really going for it, and yet Eleanor is just in the background, and it is like there's a steady build up with Eleanor eventually stepping up and facing her own destiny in this case, and it's just so rewarding. I mean, I always smile as heck whenever I watch that scene because she deserved that moment, and I think it's a testament to like how Emma the actress and Emma the screenwriter I was just like building into that moment for her character, and it's just such a relief, and it's a beautiful beautiful moment. Makes me smile. Yeah, not that affected, but I am
Same.
affected.
We're on that journey with her, and whenever she just like allows herself to just feel and like actually have a like selfish personal moment, you're just with her in all of that, and it was just so gratifying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, the quote that I love is so it's, you could say that it might be cheesy or overplayed if this was differently directed in the hands of a cheaper director, but when Edward just says, "I've come here with no expectations, only to profess now that I am at liberty to do so, that my heart is and always will be yours." Oh God,
Ooh.
what a moment.
Oh, we just melt.
I know.
And then the funny part of that is Ang Lee and Emma Thompson didn't tell Hugh Grant that she was gonna like hyperventilate. So that was like a great reaction. They just did it.
Yeah, that's so perfect. And also it's just like the swelling of the music. I mean, like I said, that could be overplayed or just very cheesy, and maybe for people who don't like this movie, who don't like this story, it's kind of an over-the-top moment. But I just have to be honest, every time I watch this movie, that quote and the way it's delivered by Hugh Grant in particular and her reaction to it always makes me tear up. So beautiful.
Yeah, in the context of the film, it works, and people should definitely like watch this and be on the ride on that journey with Eleanor and I really forgot Edward.
Yeah.
But for you to get that moment and not feel that it's over the top or it's way too cheesy, yeah, it's just a wonderful encapsulation, and the lead up to that moment is just beautiful.
Yeah. That's actually an interesting point, because I feel like this is a film that is somewhat difficult to talk about in terms of just moments, because I think you just need to immerse yourself in the film, in the language of the film, of what Emma Thompson's screenplay is doing, and all the little interactions between people. And if you are paying attention and you are just totally invested in these people, that is why a moment like that is so effective. And if you're just kind of, I don't know, on your phone or doing something else, or you're distracted, I don't think the film maybe will resonate as much, you know?
Yeah. You cannot half-heart watching this film, I guess.
Yes.
It has a very specific rhythm and language and energy, and if you're not giving your focus on that, then you're gonna get lost. And that's like the power of the subtlety of Ang Lee's work here, and just overall everyone's work, is that it creates a very specific world, and it's not an intimidating world. I think sometimes some period pieces have some struggle with that,
Totally.
with the language and costumes and like the mood that the film has. I think they were able to make this literary class, I haven't read it, but literary classic, so fresh, so full of life, and yet it's not going to allow you you should be active, you should be watching closely, because there's a lot of character details and nuances on the work that just works beautifully if you observe it. And yeah, a lot of texture, I guess, because the film talks about class and gender and all that, and it's never highlighting them as like this is like the theme or like the topic. It's all based on the small choices of words, small exchanges. So yeah, you have to pay attention when you watch this film, and it's a rewarding experience.
And it's very rewarding for rewatches because you pick up more and more details that you completely missed before. There's so much packed in there, but like not in your face.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, going back to that, maybe that is a reason why his work, Ang Lee, as the piece of direction was just not given the proper due, because it's not showy at all. It's just so authentic and real that you don't realize all of the work that he put into this, and Emma Thompson, the work she put into it, just it's so rich. Thank you for listening to this preview of On Second Thought, a bonus series from And the Runner-Up Is. If you liked what you heard and want to hear more, please go to patreon.com/andtherunnerupis and become a patron. Only $3 a month will get you access to bonus episodes, a Slack channel, and early access to regular episodes. Thank you so much for your consideration.